A Simplex converted to a Great Western Railway Prairie tank Part 45, riveting the rear smokebox ring to the smokebox barrel using a different technique. The first part of the job starts off more or less the same as with the front ring. I have to get this one in the right place, and this is achieved by a few gentle taps with a soft-faced hammer. Originally the flange part of the rear smokebox ring stuck out too far in my opinion, so now I'm moving it inboard. I need it inboard so the rivets go through the ring in the right place. It is very important when fitting a smokebox to the boiler that it's fully airtight. With the smokebox ring in this position, I have a couple of options. I can use an O-ring to seal it against the boiler, or I can push the boiler slightly further into the smokebox to seal it. Once both of these smokebox rings are riveted in position to the barrel, I'll be able to put the boiler on the frames and the smokebox on the saddle and see how everything looks. And now it's time for a high-speed drilling extravaganza. The video is speeded up to 8 times normal speed just to get through the sequence. There are two potential dangers when doing this job. One is drilling through your finger, which no, I'm not going to do that, it's well out of the way, and the other one is getting these nice shiny pieces of brass stuck in your fingers. I choose not to wear gloves in the workshop for reasons that are mentioned in quite a few of my videos. In the previous video I bent a piece of 1/4 inch square bar to this shape and ground the end to the angle as shown, but for the rear smokebox ring I don't need this at all. Instead, for riveting the rear smokebox ring I'm using this substantial piece of steel, and it's clamped very tightly in my workshop vise. It would have been better had I have had a longer piece of steel, but this was the longest piece I could find at this diameter. But this is only a light job, so it should be okay. The first thing to do is to shorten the rivets. This time I don't need a special jig or anything. I push a rivet through the hole and snip off the end with a pair of side cutters. If you look at the shape of the cutting part of a pair of side cutters, you will see that they never cut flush with the work, which is perfect for this job, and in conjunction with the radius of the smokebox ring itself, the cut rivets end up at the length that I need them to be. And here is the riveting procedure, just like in the last part of the video, except this bit's easier. The piece of steel bar in the vice jaws gives me a much larger surface area on which to place the smokebox ring when I'm riveting it. As I continue the hammering process, the piece of steel bar does move slightly, so I had to reposition this about 3 times for the entire operation. I'm really trying to hold the rivet snap at the correct angle to the smokebox, and if you look, there are very few marks this time on the smokebox. I really do prefer using a steel smokebox barrel. In 1996, when I built my 7 1/4 inch gauge titch locomotive, which I used to run on the railway around my house, I actually made the smokebox door out of a 6-inch diameter billet of solid steel. It took 5 hours to machine it, but it was really heavy and really strong. And also I could machine in the front ring. It was quite successful and still runs well to this day. And I don't think there's much chance of that particular smokebox ever rusting away because I left the walls a 1/4 inch thick. One problem that I have is sometimes the jobs become a lot more difficult when I'm videoing the process. The problem is I have to keep looking at the viewfinder to make sure I'm videoing what I need to video, and it's during the looking in the viewfinder that things often go wrong. I made the mistake of using 2 rivets that were almost the right length, and now they've come loose, so they weren't the right length. You can see them coming loose in this slow motion sequence. I solved this problem by cutting 2 more rivets to the correct length and then riveting them in place. And here's the more or less finished job. I need to go around one more time to check all the rivets are secure. Most of the rivets are in the right place. 1 or 2 of them are not 100% accurate, but such is life. The boiler for this Simplex is a new one, and it came with a smokebox. That's the smokebox you can see on the left hand side. It's the same diameter, but it's much shorter from front to back. Even though this model isn't going to be an accurate representation of a Great Western Railway Prairie tank, the smokebox does need to be longer just to make it look okay. You will notice on the other smokebox that whoever built it didn't rivet it all the way around. The riveting standard on this smokebox should be okay. It's about as good as the riveting standard on the rest of the engine. The final job on the rear smokebox ring is to clean up the rivet heads. To do this, I'm using my Proxxon motor tool with a flapper wheel fitted, and even when the rivets are ground flush with the inner part of the rear smokebox ring, they don't fall out. That's because the riveting process actually expands the rivet into the hole. If you want rivets that are flush when the rivets are under a high load, then what you have to do is countersink the inside and then hammer the rivet into the countersink. Or alternatively, leave the rivets over long and use 2 rivet snaps to shape the heads on the inside and the outside, but that is not really necessary in this application. In this next clip I'm going to fit the smokebox door, just to make sure it fits. Well, of course it's going to fit. It appears to me that quite a few of the public YouTube viewers suffer from OCD or something similar. One viewer took the time to point out in one of the previous episodes that I had the smokebox door handles in the wrong place. The inner handle must point down. And here it is with the inner part of the smokebox door handle pointing down. And before anyone else comments on this one, that is an Allen key temporarily being used as a hinge pin. I never wanted to do this job. I always wanted to be a brain surgeon. Maybe I should have worked harder at school. This is the first video that I made in 2021. Stay healthy, thanks for watching, and I hope you found it useful. Please take the time to visit my Mainsteam Models website and click on the section of the website that says Video Playlists. And by doing that, you can find other videos that you may like to watch. And by using the playlists, you can actually watch the videos back to back.